All right. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. Hello, Roger. Hey, everybody. It's my name's Chris Heller. I'll get started in just a minute. But in the meantime, use the chat. Tell me where you're joining from. Put your city in. I'll put where I'm at. Yeah, just use the comments. We'll use the comments for questions too. So, and my name's Chris Heller. I've been in the industry a long time. I've had a real estate team in San Diego for over 35 years. My team is with this brokerage called EXP. I don't know if any of you heard of them. The uh, I have, as the former CEO of Keller Williams, a former president of Movoto, have lots of executive roles, and but here today to talk to you about how to help 2026 be your best year ever. All right, everyone's letting me know where they're at. Love it. So we're gonna just jump in. I got a lot of content to cover. I want this to be interactive. If you have questions, please put in the comments, and I will answer them as we go. So, how do we work smarter in 2026? I know that all of you worked hard in 2025, and I know that because 2025 was a hard year. How many of you have a goal of working harder in 2026? I can't see you, but my guess is I'm not seeing too many hands. Uh, People don't want to work harder, and we don't want you to work harder. We want you to work smarter. We want you to become more efficient and more effective so that you can do more business in the same amount of time, or maybe even with less time and energy spent. So, how do we do that? Um, let's talk about 2026, and let's talk, and this applies to every year. 2026 already started. It started about 60 days ago. You see, real estate happens in 90-day cycles, right? We get a prospect or a lead, we start building a relationship with them. Maybe if they're a buyer, we start showing properties. It might be 30, 45 days to get them into a property, and then 30 or 45 days to close. And next thing you know, that was a 90-day cycle. We get a listing lead. By the time they get their home on the market with us, and by the time we market it and it goes under contract and then closes, that's about a 90-day cycle. So if you're having a great December, the reason you're having a great December is because of the activities that you did 90 days ago. So if we want to make sure that we're crushing it in 90 days, that means between now and the end of the year, we want to make sure that we keep working. Doesn't mean we're not going to take some time to enjoy the holidays and our friends and our family, but the agents that keep their foot on the accelerator, that finish the year strong, will start the year strong. Now, here's what we're going to cover. The 90-day cycle concept, I think I just covered that. The 2 E's, I'll explain what that is, an action framework, and then the best practices, and then we'll open it up for questions. Now, as you'll notice on this screen, there's a little problem with formatting on StreamYard, so I apologize for that, where you see those random S's or RS's out there. But the 90-day cycle works this way. We do an activities, the activities lead to conversations, the conversations lead to contracts, the contracts lead to closings, and then the closings then result in us doing more activities. That's how our business works. That's how we work, right? We do the right activities, we have the right conversations, we have the contracts, and then we have closings. Why do some agents achieve significantly more and better results, even when they're putting in the same amount of time or even less time? As an agent, I would leave the office at 5 or 6 o'clock at the end of the day and saw that I was doing dramatically more business than the other agents that were still there and working hard. But what I noticed was that they were in a very reactive mode. They were reacting to things all day long, and the business was controlling them instead of controlling the business. Who can relate to that? Yes, everyone can. So how do we do that? How do we become more efficient and more effective? This isn't about working more, harder, or longer. It's about working more efficiently and more effectively. So efficiency, and again, sorry about the formatting on the screen. Some of you are detail oriented, and that will bother you and make your brain go crazy. Other of you won't notice it. Efficiency. Efficiency are things like how focused we are, systems and processes, checklists. Are we touching things multiple times? Are we are we going back to an email? I use a program called Mail Suite, and when I send an email, I can see when someone opens it. Sometimes I'll see someone go back to that same email 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times before they respond to it. That takes a lot of time. That takes a lot of focus. It takes you away from other activities. So, how efficient are we with our time and with our activities? And when I talk about efficiency, I'm talking about our processes, our checklists. Do we wake up each day and try to figure out what we're going to do? Or is that all decided the night before? You see, every night I know what my next day is going to look like. I know what clothes I'm going to wear. I know what I'm going to eat. I know when I'm going to eat. I know what my schedule is. I know all the things I have. And so when I wake up each day, I'm not thinking about what to do. I'm just doing the things in my schedule. Does that allow you to be more efficient? It does, right? Because we're not spending any time or energy getting ready. We're already ready. We were ready the night before. So the beginning of every day begins the night before. And we want to make sure that we are, using tactics like that to be as efficient as possible. Then effectiveness. What do we mean by effectiveness? Two agents can hold open houses on the same day, have the same number of prospects come through, and one has 3 or 4 real leads that they've generated, and one may have none because they were more effective. They were more effective in their scripts. They were more effective in their approach. They were more effective in connecting. They were more effective in providing value and getting people to engage with them. You could put 2 agents on the phone and give them a list of 100 expired listings. One of them could get significantly more results, significantly more appointments than the other. It's not because they got lucky. It's not because their list was better than the others. It's because their skills were better. We developed a product called SalesGo.ai. And if you follow me on social media, you probably see me talking about. My team uses that every day, right? It's an AI role play partner. And what we see happen is that agents' skills increase because they're practicing, and they're practicing on demand when they want to, when it works for them. But because their skills increase, their confidence increases. And when their confidence increases, they become more effective. Look, we've all had interactions where we've met someone and you can feel the confidence in them, right? Maybe you go to a doctor and the doctor walks in and they look you in the eye with a big smile and a firm handshake and say, all right, what do we need to do to make you feel better today? All right, they're confident. I've also had situations where I've met someone that wasn't confident, right? And I could tell they weren't sure, and they were hemming and hawing, and they weren't getting to the point. And they were, well, it might be this, or we could try that, right? That's not who people like to deal with. So the higher our skills, the higher our confidence, and the more effective we are. And that was supposed to say effectiveness at the top. That's even bothering my brain. All right, so what would help you run your business smoother? Think about that. Think about 2025. Some of you had periods of time where things were running smooth and like a well-oiled machine. And there were other times where it felt like the wheels were coming off, right? And there was chaos. When we talk about efficiency, these are the things that help us run our business smoother. I talked a little bit about preparation, right? Preparing the night before, being prepared for an appointment, being prepared for a buyer consultation, being prepared for our showing sessions. Are we preparing at the highest possible level? Not winging it, right? We are professionals. People look to us as professionals. You don't want your attorney who's representing you in a court case to wing it. You don't want your CPA or your financial advisor to wing it. You don't want your surgeon who's going to do back or knee surgery on you to wing it, right? You want the people that are prepared at the highest level. Guess what? The buyers and sellers want that too. So we owe it to them and to ourselves to make sure we're always prepared. Transaction management. How many of you sometimes wish that you just didn't have to deal with that part of the business, right? It's tough conversations, difficult situations, emotional people, incompetent agents we're dealing with, right? All those things. But how can we deal with all those things more efficiently? One of the ways we can is by setting expectations, right? The stronger we set expectations, the more clarity we provide, and clarity is power. The other thing that happens with expectations is when we set them, then we know exactly what to do to exceed them. And whenever you exceed someone's expectations, you become a hero. You are exhibiting and using the concept of under promising and over delivering when you set and then exceed someone's expectations. So in a transaction, it might be as simple as saying, they have a question for you, and you know that you can hang up the phone, call, and get the answer to that question. But you tell them, hey, let me, I could give you an answer, but I want to make sure on it. Let me check with some people to get the right answer to that, and you'll either hear from me by the end of the day or tomorrow at the latest. Now, you're going to have the answer in 10 minutes, but you tell them, hey, it's going to be the end of the day or tomorrow at the latest. And then you call them back in 10 minutes with the answer. What do you think they're going to think when they were expecting that they weren't going to hear from you for several hours or maybe even tomorrow? They're going to go, wow, this agent's on the ball. I must be important. That's how they're going to feel. I had to talk to the service department at a car dealership this morning because my wife's car had some electrical problem, had to have it towed 2 days ago. Horrible service so far, like not communicating. I'm having to chase them down to find out. Now there's an opportunity that the guy had when he was talking to me this morning to set and then exceed expectations. Said, hey, I'm not sure when we're going to be able to squeeze it in. I don't know if it's going to be before the weekend. If he were to call me back now or an hour from now, not now because I'm doing this with you, and say, hey, good news, we got you in and we'll have it done at the end of the day. Now, he may have known that already, but because he set expectations, it might not be till after the weekend. He has an opportunity to exceed those expectations and make me go, okay, these guys are on the ball. This is great. Database management, how effectively are we using our CRM? Are we leveraging all the tools and functionality so that we are automating as much of the things as possible? And then time management, the biggest challenge of most agents. All right. Here's what I want you to think about. Don't focus on managing time. Focus on managing yourself in relationship to time. Right? We all have the same amount of time. Right? You can't manage it to get more time. You can't manage, I'm going to manage this really hard and get another 30 minutes each day. No, we have the same amount of time. Everyone's clock looks the same, but we can manage ourselves and what we do in that amount of time. We can go deeper into this, but any questions that you guys have about anything I'm talking about now or at any time, just put them in chat so that we make sure that, the stuff that I'm going through fast, and I'm doing that to be conscious of the amount of time we have, which is not a lot of time, to cover as much as I can. So the best way to manage yourself in relationship to time is to have a schedule. Now, some of you, when I say that probably hurts your stomach or makes you roll your eyes. That's not why you got into real estate. That sounds like a real job. Guess what? The agents that treat real estate like a real job are the ones that usually have the most success. And the more disciplined you are with your time, the more disciplined you are with your schedule, the more time you have. The more disciplined you are with your money, the more money you have. The more disciplined you are with your health, the better health you have. So a schedule actually creates freedom. It actually creates more time. See, when everything is in my schedule and all I have to do is make sure I follow that every day, I don't spend any time or energy thinking about anything else. Like, what am I doing? Should I be doing this? Or I need to do that, right? It's already in my schedule. And so then my only job is to do that. And then when everything is in my schedule and I complete the day, it's easy for me to say it's done. It's easy for me to go home. It's easy for me to call it a day because I did all the things I knew I needed to do that day versus not operating from a schedule and having all these different thoughts, ideas, things happening that I'm reacting to. It never feels like you're finished. It never feels like you completed the day. So those are ways that we can be more efficient. And the more efficient we are, the more that we can do in the same amount of time or even in less time. What do you need in your business to perform at a higher level? right? I'm not talking about more leads. I mean, I'm talking about you as an individual. What do you need in your business to perform at a higher level? We have a partnership with EXP on a platform called Lever, and Lever is a platform for individual agents. And Lever does a lot of things for individual agents that they would get if they had a team or if they were on a team, right? Lever manages your database. Make sure it's all set up the right way. Make sure all the campaigns are set up. Make sure everything's firing. Make sure everyone's tagged the right way. Make sure all the emails are written the right way. Lever does that for you. Lever pays for and oversees your transaction management. Lever helps with marketing. Lever helps with leads. Lever helps with training. Does all those things. That's one way as an individual agent, if I'm having all that help and support, that I can do more. Now, is this a commercial for Lever? No, I'm just using that as an example. Now, you could join a team and have a team do all that, but a lot of people don't want to join a team, right? They want to have their own brand, not build someone else's brand. And that's why you want to leverage platforms like Lever or some of the other things that we're talking about. All right, how about effectiveness? Let's talk about effectiveness. We talked about efficiency a lot. How do we become more effective? If I'm going to go on 10 listing presentations and I want to list 8 of them, and another agent goes on 10 listing presentations and they list 4 of them, we each did the same amount of work. We each had the same amount of opportunity, but I'm going to do 4 times the amount of business, right? Because I'm more effective. Now, how do I get more effective on a listing presentation? Well, first of all, you have to have a presentation. And then secondly, I have to memorize and internalize it so I'm never thinking about what I'm going to say next. So I can actually be in the conversation with the person sitting across the table from me. So I can really hear what they're saying when they say we want to think it over. Because I know it's never no one ever wants to think it over. What they're saying is, hey, they're not confident enough, or I haven't convinced them, or they don't see the value. Right. And I need to be able to hear that so I can say, hey, let's talk about that. What are the things that are causing you to feel like you need to think more about this? Right. And I'm going to keep asking questions. But it's easy for me to do that if I know my presentation and I'm not trying to wing it or think about what to say. So I'm talking about role playing and practicing on a daily basis. So having sold over 4,000 homes, having listed thousands of homes, and being very effective at listing presentation, it only came because I practiced my presentation every day. I didn't stop. I didn't stop after 20 years. I didn't stop after 21 years. I kept practicing it, just like professional athletes and Olympic athletes never stop practicing, right? NBA players don't say, "Hey, I'm not going to practice my shooting today because there's a game tonight and I'll get plenty of shots during the game." Right? A professional baseball player doesn't say, "Oh, I don't need batting practice because I'm going to get 3 or 4 at bats in the game tomorrow." Of course not. They practice more than the amateurs. That's how they became professional. Buyer consultations, the same thing. As a brand new agent, my very first listing presentation, it was a referral. I was excited about it, and I didn't know anything about what to do. I didn't know how to give a listing presentation. What should be in a listing presentation? So I started grabbing agents in the office and say, "Hey, will you practice with me? Will you role play with me?" I'd pull them into the conference room, and then I'd give what I thought was a listing presentation, and they'd say, "Yeah, you probably don't want to do that," or "Here's what you want to do," or "Here's what I do," right? And so I kept practicing and practicing to get good at it. Same with buyer consultations. Again, are you winging it, or do you have a buyer's consultation that provides clarity to that consumer, that expresses your value proposition in a very meaningful and concise way, where at the end of it, they're like, "Yeah, we want to work with you," or "How much extra do you charge?" Those are the type of questions I used to get asked. "How much higher is your commission than the other agents?" Say, "Mr. and Mrs. Buyer or Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's the good news. My commission isn't higher. Here's exactly what it is." Because they were asking that question because I was communicating and delivering so much value that they thought it probably cost more. Lead generation. Again, are we practicing, or are we just practicing on the prospects? That's not a smart thing to do, right? You want to practice before you start talking to your prospects. Lead follow-up. Do we have a specific plan? Are we checking in with people, or are we delivering value that causes them to want to engage, ask questions? Yeah, I buy and sell a lot of real estate in different places, and I use real estate agents for that. Could I do it myself? Of course. I've sold over 4,000 homes. I've negotiated more times than most agents would ever dream of. I've helped people buy and sell more homes than any of the agents I work with. But I want that local expert, right? Now, how they deliver value. If they say, "Hey, Chris, I'm just want to give you a call and check in, see if there's any real estate plans for the new year," I don't need to check in, and I don't have my real estate plans come as opportunities come. That doesn't provide me any value. But if they say, "Hey, Chris, wanted to give you a call. I know you'd looked at a property 3 months ago over on blah blah blah, and for whatever reason that wasn't right for you. I know of two homes that are going to be coming on the market in the new year in that area that are likely to be at much better values than that one was. Is this something you'd want the information on before it happens?" Right? Then I'm going to go, yeah, I would like that. I don't know if I'm ready to buy or if I'm, but yeah, all day long, give me that information. So providing things of value in our follow up that'll cause the consumer to want to engage. What's the name? All right, I'm looking in the chat. Someone asked, "What's the name of the AI for practicing?" It's SalesGo, SalesGo.ai. It's inexpensive and it is fun, right? I just did one with a for sale by owner, and you can choose hard, medium, or easy. And I, I'm sorry, my real estate agent in Montana is calling me right now. Um, and I did it with this for sale by owner, and I chose the hard level, and it was hard. I worked to get that appointment. Anyways, it's a great way to build skills. All right, the arrow for me to advance the slides just disappeared. Okay. All right, best practices. Best practices for efficiency. Having checklists, leveraging a VA, mastering your CRM, joining Lever, the platform that I mentioned. Um, I'll put this in chat. Another person's asking about it. I'll just put the name. Sorry, can't talk and type at the same time. All right. So to become more efficient, do we have a checklist? I had checklists for everything. My team had checklists for everything. On a price reduction, we had a checklist. Obviously, we get the price reduction. On the checklist was contact every agent who had viewed the property, contact every agent who had called on the property, change the price in the MLS, verify it's been changed on the portals, uh, send out an email to our database, right? Like all the things we would do on a price list was on a checklist. And that allowed us to be very efficient because we just followed the checklist. Um, Leveraging a VA. There's things that you don't need to be doing that you can pay someone a nominal fee to do for you and have you become more efficient because you're not doing it. As I talked earlier about, making sure that you have a great CRM, but more importantly, make sure that you're leveraging it to its fullest so that you get the value. Effectiveness, learning, internalizing your scripts. There's a lot of people that they'll say, "Oh, Chris, that's so salesy. That's so, I'm going to sound, like a robot or a salesperson." Well, first of all, guess what? You are a salesperson. We are all salespeople. So embrace it. Don't resist it. And every agent uses scripts, right? They have things they say in certain situations. They have things that they always say. Some are just better than others. Now, instead of winging it or not knowing what to say, when you have scripts and you practice them, it sounds very natural. It sounds very conversational. I use scripts on everything I did, and I can promise you there was never a buyer or seller that knew I was reading or using a script that I had internalized, right? Because it just sounded like part of the conversation. Um, Recording yourself. How many of you have recorded yourself on a listing presentation? Years ago, and you can find it on YouTube somewhere, I actually had a video crew video me on a listing presentation. Yes, I got permission from the homeowners, and they agreed. I don't know why, but they did. And I also used to record myself. Now, this was back before you could record on a cell phone. I'd bring in a little mini tape recorder. I'd say, "Hey, I hired a coach to help me be the very best agent possible." And one of the assignments they gave me was to record myself meeting with some sellers like you so they can analyze what I'm doing and help me get even better. If it's okay with you, I'm going to record this for my coach. 9 times out of 10, they said, whatever, they didn't care. And if one of them did care, I said, hey, no problem, I'll do it on the next one. But those recordings helped me get really good. You'd listen to them, and it was painful to listen to them, painful to listen to a listing presentation you give, painful to listen to one of your prospecting sessions and hear the things you say or how you talk or how you sound. But it's gold. It's gold. It's gold to be able to listen to that and improve. Why do professional athletes watch hours and hours of films from their practices and their games? Well, if you're taking a golf lesson, the golf pro will videotape your swing so that you can see what you're doing and show you, hey, here's how you fix that. Here's how the proper way to do it. Same thing with recording yourself. And then using tools like the things we've already talked about. All right. If you want some scripts and objection handlers, you can scan this QR code. We will send them to you. There's no obligation, no cost, anything else. It's just a value add for everyone for joining us. I want to now just open it up for questions. And I don't know if that's a question, Chris, but a comment said none of your listing appointments go as planned. So I'll share this. Early in my career, I had a listing presentation and I developed it and I used it every time. And sometimes it would work like clockwork. Man, they got everything I said. It was just clicking, and 20 minutes later, I was walking out with that signed agreement at the price I wanted. I would leave there, go to the next house, do the exact same presentation, and it was like I was speaking a different language. The communication was just like, it didn't work at all. And and I would do this, and this was going on for a year or more, and just like didn't understand why this kept happening. And I started calling every seller who didn't hire me, and I'd ask them this question: "Hey, Mr. and Miss Seller, I understand you've chosen to hire another agent. I just want to call and wish you the best of luck. I hope it sells quickly and at the highest price you could ever dream of. The reason I'm calling is I want to be better at what I do. And I'm gonna have a favor. I want feedback from you, and you have my permission to be completely honest. I won't take it personal, but what could I have done that would have caused you to hire me, or what did I do that caused you to hire someone else, or what didn't I do?" And I would hear things, and they were painful to hear, but I needed to hear them. Right? I needed to know what was happening, and what I discovered was that many times I was just presenting the same way, but to different types of people. I wasn't adapting, or I hadn't developed any versatility to be able to present to different types of personalities. If someone was my personality, which was straight to the point, bottom line, hey, it worked every time. But if not, they often felt like, and they'd say, give me feedback like, "Well, Chris, this didn't seem like you liked our house. Didn't seem like you were excited about the things we had done to the home." Now, the truth is, I wasn't. A house is a house. I don't. That's not why I get excited. That's not why I'm in this business. But there's certain people that need to feel that and need to hear that. Right? That's important to them. So that helped me develop versatility and flexibility. And then my listing appointments started to go better as planned. Now, the other thing that helps a listing appointment go as planned is when you have a planned presentation, right? Where it's a very specific process. And maybe that's a call in and of itself on just how to have a great listing presentation. It says your phone can't scan the QR code. Can you please email them to me? We'll make sure. Yes, and thank you for providing your email, Jenna. Make sure you copy that, and we'll send it. People don't role play enough, Scott. 100%. I've been saying that for years in our industry, and you can hear it. Right? I listen to calls all the time. I listen to recorded calls from agents. Agents will send me their calls, and the thing that's most obvious is that they haven't practiced, that they haven't role played, that they had a script, but they immediately went off script because the seller said something, and then they chased what the seller said instead of sticking to their process. And that almost never works. We'll make sure everyone who's here gets a copy of the objections, and I'm wondering if the slide thing is getting in the way of the QR code. I bet that's the case. So, other questions? Ask me anything. And in the chat, we just put the link to the doc so you can get what you need in terms of the objections and scripts. What other questions you have? While you're thinking of that, I have a question for you. Was this helpful? Did I give you things to think about? Are there things that you might do different as a result of this conversation? All right, Chris asked a really good question. And now someone can't open the Google link either. How do you keep the schedule you made for the day? So making a schedule is the easy part. Sticking to the schedule is the hard part. Hey, while I'm answering this, I'm going to move to another location so I can plug in my computer because it's about to die. Okay. Sorry about that. I was using an external microphone and then I had to switch to my computer microphone. If someone can hear me now, put it in the comments. So having a schedule is the easy part. Following the schedule is the hard part. We self-sabotage ourselves more than outside distraction happen. On the schedule, two things are important. Make sure you put the most important things you need to do in the beginning of the day. As the day goes on, more things happen, and that can prevent you from accomplishing the things you need to accomplish because those are distractions. The other thing is you need to share your schedule. See, my family, my clients all knew my schedule because I shared it with them. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. If you call me, and whenever you call me, just know until 11 a.m. every day, I'm not available because that's the time I commit to helping find a home for clients like you. That's the time I commit to helping find buyers for sellers like you. And so I would share with them that schedule. And then, 11 o'clock, I'd return my calls, return my emails. If you need to put structures in place, and by the way, they were all okay with that. In fact, they felt, that was very a professional approach that they appreciated. Removing distractions. If you're not using your cell phone to prospect or do your lead generation or follow up in the morning, turn it off. Schedule time when you're going to look at social media. Don't just do it because it's a habit that you can't, help yourself with. Someone said they can hear now. Okay, thank you. I thought you said you can't hear now. The price for Lever, if you can go to leverbymovoto.com, leverbymovoto.com. Jen will put the link in the comments. It's a nominal monthly fee. I think for EXP agents, it's actually discounted $149 a month. And then a small referral fee on the transactions that get closed. The other thing about the schedule and sticking to the schedule is if you make your focus sticking to your schedule and put structures in place to remove the distractions or limit the distractions, you'll have more success. And it's just like any habit that you do, like going to the gym or changing the time that you go to bed at night or that you wake up in the morning. The more you do it, the easier it becomes to start following that schedule because you build that discipline, build that habit. All right, any other questions? I know we're 4 minutes over. If you have to go, you can go. If you have questions, I'm happy to stay on for a few more minutes. If you have questions for me that you don't want to put in chat or that you haven't asked, feel free to reach out. You can, message me on any social media platform, and I'm happy to respond to you. Since I can't see faces, here, let me do this. Since I can't see any faces, and if you're still here, if you got one good idea, thought that you're going to implement in 2026, put it in the chat. You don't need to tell me what the thought is, just say yes. Aaron, you're welcome. All right, so hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully this was beneficial. Hopefully this is a good use of your time. Again, if you have other questions, feel free to message me on social media. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you all for being here. Appreciate you all for participating and continue to participate. Hope you guys have a super productive rest of the year, a great holidays, and that 2026 is your best year ever. Thanks, everyone.